Hey everybody, welcome back to Sophisticakes. For this tutorial, I'm going to show you how I made this modern textured buttercream and rice paper cake design. I don't even know what to call the rice paper cake design embellishment, but I made it up. So, I also made some chocolate balls, and I used some aluminum foil to get the texture on this buttercream. So if this sounds interesting, stay with me and we'll get right to it after the intro. So I guess for lack of a better term, I'm going to call this a wraparound sail that I made out of rice paper. I made this one ahead of time and let it dry overnight. I would recommend that for this technique every time, and let it set up so that it holds its shape when you put it on the cake. I used 6-inch foam cake dummies to wrap it around with some parchment paper held in place by some packing tape. I also used a pie pan with some water, some shears, and some rice paper that I purchased on Amazon. I'll put a link to all this down in the description. I also did some extra decoration with some clear sugar crystals. Now I just used this packing tape to stick the foam dummies together. I put one piece on each dummy for a little added extra strength, and then I measured around it and I cut some parchment paper to size. Now to get this to wrap around the parchment paper, I tape it one side, the first side, onto the foam, and then wrap around the other side and tape it to itself. Now cut off that excess because you're not going to need it. Since I doubled up the cake dummies, it's going to be plenty tall without having an extra piece sticking up. Now I just used some warm water. I'm putting it in the pie pan, and place your rice paper directly into the water and submerge it. I added a little extra water because it wasn't completely submerged. Now just soak it until it is pliable. You don't need it to be almost melting. You know what I'm saying? You need it to be pliable, but almost still a little bit of rigidity to it so that you can work with it. It's going to want to stick to itself, but kind of pick it up and let your fingers form some kind of pleating with it. Kind of let it fall down on itself. And then once I got for this one I did an ombre technique. I wasn't sure if I was going to use the original sail that I already made or if I was going to use this one, but I wanted to show you how I did it. And it was the same technique with just different colors. So for this one, I just am doing an ombre. The other one, I did all black. And I added 1 dot of food coloring to this water for the first ombre effect, the lighter one. Now I added another added dot of black to it with a little yellow. I didn't add that or show that, but I added a little yellow food coloring to try to get rid of some of the purple. The black likes to grab more of a purple tone to it. Some blacks will have more of a blue and some will have kind of a green cast. But this particular brand that I got at Hobby Lobby, I believe, has a little bit of more of a purple to it. So I did the different gradations of color, and I'm going to cut off that extra off the bottom, and then honestly I'm just going to leave it sitting on this pan overnight. I have the towel in there to hold it in place so it doesn't roll over on itself. Now I have just some melted white candy melts that I'm going to use to make these balls with. And I added a little bit of oil to it, vegetable oil, just to get it to be a little more pliable so that I could work with it a little bit better. Now I don't know why on those small ones that I did this technique to them, because I just did them solid. So you'll see I go back and I just add more chocolate to it. And for the large ones, I did make a shell with them and I just scraped off the extra. Now I put them all in the freezer till they got firmed up. You could put them in the refrigerator if you prefer, just takes a little longer. Now pull the mold away from the chocolate. That puts less stress on the chocolate and less chances of it breaking. Your large spheres, they're going to have more chocolate puddled at the bottom because before it solidifies, any extra chocolate is going to go down towards the middle. So if you're going to put any pressure anywhere, put it on the bottom to release them from the mold. Now I just warmed up this plate in the microwave for about 30 seconds. And I'm just running the spheres, the half spheres, to melt the chocolate a little around the rim, the outside rim, and then placing them together and rubbing off that extra. I'm using gloves to try to prevent my hands from melting the chocolate. Now here are the two different sails. I had to decide between the two, and really what it came down to was which one fit better once I had the cake ready. I'm going to add some luster. This is a pearl sheen luster that I'm adding to it just for a little bit of extra, I don't know, something. And I kind of used it, and I used it on all of the chocolate balls as well. I have a hard time just leaving things as is. I need to add all those extra little touches. I need somebody to do damage control on me. Just stop me. Sorry, I have a cold if I sound funny. Now I do have more than I needed, but I always figure it's better to have too much instead of not enough. Now I'm going to start assembling the cake layers. Now I sped this up a little bit this time because I feel like if you've watched me for a while, you've seen me do this 100 times. But if you haven't, let me know and I'll slow down a video for you. And well, actually you can look back on old videos too, and I have it slowed down more. But I don't know, having a cold, I just kind of wanted to get it done. I'm sorry. So I filled this with chocolate buttercream, and I did a crumb coat with chocolate buttercream as well. And I'm going to do the same for both tiers or cake. Get it as smooth as you can before you put the next layer on. And I just did the same thing throughout the entire cake. Level it out, and then put your next layer on. I'm going to do a crumb coat over the entire cake before I put it in the, for both layers of cake, or both tiers, I keep doing that, I'm sorry. For both tiers of cake, I did a crumb coat and I put it in the freezer for 10 minutes to firm up before I did the next layer. And here's my little baby tier. I did end up trimming it down a little bit because the sail was not going to fit around it in the original width. And when you have to trim it down, that's fine, but just go ahead and cut off your cake board level with the side. That way your board is not sticking out. And I'm just doing a white final coat on the tier on top. Just my regular American buttercream. And I always start on the top, level that out, and then put the buttercream on the sides. And I like to use first a plastic spatula, and then sometimes I'll go in with my metal scraper if I'm having a hard time getting the buttercream to smooth out. Now to figure out how much of this foil I need to cut to do the texture on the bottom tier, I just measured the height and the width, or the circumference of the cake. And I just rolled out a long piece of foil, and I'm just scrunching the heck out of it. And then I do kind of flatten it out a little bit, and I'm just double checking that it's going to be long enough once it's all scrunched up. Now you don't want any huge pleats or creases in this because it's going to be hard to get it off once it has been solidified in the freezer. Now I'm just putting a layer on top. This is the color I decided to go on, a dark charcoal. And I thought I would be okay not adding some to the sides, but I did end up going back and add some to the sides, so you'll see that in a second here. But to get the wrap ready, I just plopped on some dollops of buttercream, and I'm just smoothing it on the entire thing with my spatula. Just trying to keep it as even as possible so you don't have any thicker spots when you wrap it around your cake. And I have that tape measure still out to make sure that I have it the right size. Now use your larger scraper to level out, which will this will be the inside of that wrap. This part you won't see, but it'll help keep it even thickness on the cake. Now I'm just adding a thin coat of this just for better adhesion. I just wanted to play it safe. I didn't want to pull away from the cake that was or the frosting that was already set. I suppose I could have sprayed water on it, but I just did it this way this time. I'm just leveling it out, smoothing it out. I think Important thing to remember is even if your final coat of whatever you're going to do is a fondant or a textured buttercream, be careful to keep the inside layers, keep the base of your cake as good as you can, as perfect as you can, because that alleviates trouble later on. Don't get lazy with and just plop it on and think you're going to fix it later. Keep it good the whole time. Now I just picked this up and wrapped it around, and I'm going to smooth it, not smooth it, but make sure that it's stuck with my scraper. I'm sorry, my fondant smoother. I'm having trouble speaking today with this cold. I'm so sorry. I cut off the excess foil with my just X-Acto knife. And just scrape off that extra. And once you got it smooth where you feel good about it, cut off that extra off of the top too. You don't need that. And then put it in your freezer for a good 20 minutes. 20 to 30 minutes. And once it has been in there for long enough and it's kind of solid to the touch, you can start removing that foil. Because if it is cold enough, that foil will come off. Don't try to do this at room temperature. All your buttercream will come right off. It has to be solidly, not frozen all the way through, but to the touch on the surface. Now make sure you get all those little pieces because there will be a few pieces that'll want to stick in there. And use a straight blade. This is just an X-Acto knife blade that I just used by itself. And I did run a spatula around the top to level that out. I just didn't show that. And I'm using an airbrush to add, I wanted some dimension in this, a little bit more. So I added some black, not an even coat, just kind of here and there. And then I went in with some silver. I think it was a silver pearl that I went in with after this. And I do use the fat boba straws on a 2-tier cake. I feel that they are strong enough to hold a 6-inch on top of an 8-inch. So I'll just stick them in, 5 of them, evenly spaced around, and then pull them up a little bit. You'll see where the buttercream ends on the straw and cut it at that point. Add a little bit of buttercream to the top, and since this tier has been frozen in the freezer also, I can just pick it up and place it on. And I did not have to add anything behind this sail to get it to stick, because as the cake comes to room temperature, it's going to have a little condensation, which I have learned to use to my benefit. Now I'm just placing the balls randomly where it appeals to me as I'm doing it. I did not have an exact plan. I just kind of rolled with it. I do a lot of that, just rolling with it. Now I wanted to add another size of ball, so I went with these candies, these chocolate candies, and I kind of wish I hadn't. I kind of liked it the way it was before, but you know, that's fine. So here's the finished product, guys. This is my modern textured buttercream with a rice paper, we're gonna call it a sail, and some chocolate balls. I hope you like what you saw, and if you did, please like, share, comment, hit the notification bell. That's very important. Let me know what you do and don't like, and we'll catch you the next time. Thanks, guys. Bye.